Hello and welcome to Metro AV Tech Tips. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And once again, it's Wednesday and I'm back you're here.
Yeah, we're both here. We're actually in the studio.
We better put this on the calendar.
Yeah, we got to be, put
as
an actual
we're looking
star
forward,
on it,
a whole lot of these days coming.
Not a whole lot. Hopefully we're actually going to be doing some traveling soon.
Traveling's coming.
Yeah. So, with that said, everybody who's joined us today, thank you so much. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to let you know whenever we do go live, which of course is every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And I believe we're going to try to get Fridays back on.
Awesome.
So we should be back on Fridays. So with that said, everybody that is watching, thank you so much. And of course, if you have any questions about whatever it is that we are talking about today, please leave it over in the chat section on the side. Or if you're watching this after the fact, you can leave it down in the comments below. With that said, before we get into today's topic, I really want to show this off because it's just mind-blowing. And what it does is it puts things back into perspective of just how infinitesimally small we all are in our place, because it's just so, like, just the way that...
Okay, not for nothing, at no point.
Well, you have been traveling, you've been eating very well.
Am I feeling infinitesimally small?
Well, this will help. So what I want to do is I want to switch over. We have our stuff all set up here so you can take a look at it. That right there...
Is it geode?
No, not quite. This is a picture from the James Webb Space Telescope. And this is just, I mean, look, we're not a space, thing for us to, we don't talk about space or telescopes or anything like that, but I mean, wow, this is just phenomenal.
And that's not even the good photo.
No, it gets even better. So if y'all are get an opportunity to go and check this out, you can.
What is the website?
You can go to the webbtelescope.org. This is just one view, one picture. We can go back and look at some of the others that they have on there, but they're phenomenal. They're just absolutely phenomenal. We were looking at this one earlier. This is the Cosmic Cliffs. And I'm just going to open up, I think, this one. Let's see if it actually loads, because it's a pretty big file. The Cosmic Cliffs, and when you get in here and you're able to zoom in, and it's still loading it, so I don't know if it's going to load in correctly because it's still kind of pixely right now. Might take it a little bit to actually get in there, but do yourself a favor, go there, and if nothing else, find yourself a new wallpaper for your computer or your phone, because they're just beautiful, beautiful pictures on there. Whenever I get a chance to talk about it, I love talking about it. The definition of clarity that you get out of these pictures is just phenomenal. I keep saying that, but it's it's mind-blowing.
We should have this on the 8K TV.
Yeah, probably should. Yeah, but we'll
maybe
I'll
on
do
our
that.
iPads.
No. Yeah, it would be much better served on that screen.
Sadly, we have to get back to why we're here, or we get in trouble.
Yeah, I know. We can't spend an hour just looking at pictures of space.
I could.
Yeah.
But we can't.
Yeah, correct.
So what is our topic for today?
Well, today's topic is, let me get the little button here to actually push the button correctly. Hey, and here we are. Why does EDID fail? And how to fix it.
Awesome.
Right? So we talked about EDID a lot. That's kind of one of our, big items that we talk about, a lot. There's, we don't really just kind of talk about it here and there, but that's primarily because we have a lot of stuff that
actually,
fixes
I want to take it a little bit deeper than that, because what I want to do is I want to look at EDID repair versus EDID management.
Good call.
Because both are valid ways to deal with issues, and they both have their place, and they're not exclusive of each other. Frequently, it's an inclusive relationship.
Yes.
Where you do the management and you still need to do the repair because of multiple items in the system.
Right.
So last week you went into in-depth detail as to exactly what EDID is.
On the digital, like, actually readout of what it is.
And it led you to a question to me this morning.
It did, because I've had some problems with the way that you describe the what's for lunch problem. And to review that really quick, the statement that you've made for what the what's for lunch conundrum, or what was the word I used earlier? Dilemma, I guess, maybe.
Yes.
So what happens then is, of course, the idea behind that is when I say, hey, I'm going to go to lunch, and or do you want to go? You say, yeah, sure. What are we going to have? And I said, I don't know. What do you want to have? And then it goes back and forth, right? That's kind of what you have described as what's happening when you have a display and a source, and the display says, I'm going to go to lunch and I want to have this. Here's everything that I can have. And it sends that back to the source. And
no,
then
here's
the
all
source
the places I can go.
Sure, there we go. Yeah, and so where do we want to go from there? And then you have back and forth that happens with it. Now, the problem that I had with that descriptor wasn't necessarily that I thought it was wrong, but I needed more to understand it better, I guess is what I was looking for. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to ask you, is it better to describe it as the display is the restaurant itself, and it's handing to the source, here's what my menu is of what we have to do that, maybe a little bit or something. Here's the menu of stuff that can be done.
The display is the driver.
Sure.
The display is me. I am going to lunch. I'm taking my Explorer to lunch.
Sure.
And I've asked, would you like to go with me?
Sure.
Now, I haven't just asked you.
Right.
I've asked 3 or 4 other people, hey, I'm going to lunch. Do you guys want to go with me?
Sure.
Now, here's what happens. Remember, the display is ultimately the commanding device. It's the queen, to quote Jeff Boccaccio.
Okay.
It determines what, when, where, and how.
Sure.
So it will
4K, 30,
right. So it
10-bit, whatever.
Request from the source, what can you do? Mm-hmm. And the source sends back, okay, I can do 480i, 40p, 540p, 720p, 1080i, 1080p, maybe even 1440p. And if it's a computer, we got another 50 versions available in there.
Sure.
With different refresh rates, color depth, all this sort of stuff.
So is the TV not just sending back an immediate list that says, I'm capable of displaying
Absolutely,
this?
it does.
Okay. So
the problem is, which one's going to make the decision as to what's going to actually be sent?
Okay.
Now, you specifically mentioned link training.
I did, because the way that you described it made me think of link training for 2.1.
And link training is a much more defined set of parameters within EDID to resolve a lot of the issues that happened previously, the what do you want for lunch syndrome.
Right.
So in the past, they would negotiate, well, I can do this, this, and this. Well, I can take this, this, and this. What are you going to give me? Well, I can do this, this, and this. What do you want? Well, I can take this, this, and this. What are you going to give me?
And so we get the back and forth that's happening there.
Where I recommended, okay, I'm going to go to Popeyes for lunch. Would you like to join me?
And that's just kind of
yes or no.
That's, yeah.
And instead of putting the decision onto the display, which is doing a lousy job of making those selections.
Sure.
At the source side, you simply say, I'm going to output this for video. I'm going to output this for color depth. I'm going to output this for audio. And as long as the display can say, yes, I can accept that, we've now taken this long list of options down to very few, and stuff happens faster.
Or you're just basically saying, this is what we're doing.
Yes.
We're going to Popeyes.
Can you take it?
Or
yes.
whatever. Okay.
It's that simple. I'm going to Popeyes. Do you want to go?
Got it.
Yes or no?
So, and again, we're going back to what we talked about earlier. In a perfect world, the TV sends back the information of what it can do. The source then says, you can do, here's the highest that you can do in what I have to give you. Let's do that.
Of what you can do, here's the highest I can give you.
So is the TV then saying, okay, here's the list. Source says, great, this is your highest. Here's what I can give you. Is that what you want? And then the TV agrees to it, and then we start actually sending the video?
Except that they don't do that. They send back everything they can do. They don't send back the highest. See, remember when you were talking about the strings?
Right.
The string says, here's what I can do. At no point does it say, which one do you want? Remember the strings you showed me last week?
Yes.
Because they're not...
The strings that we looked at last week were the ones coming back from the display.
Right, but the source is also replying to that and simply saying, I can do this. In theory, HDMI should have negotiated, okay, if you're capable of 1080i and 1080p and I'm capable of 1080i, I will give you 1080i. That is what's supposed to happen. And if you wait long enough, it generally gets there.
Right.
If you wait long enough.
So tell me this then. When we have EDID problems where it's just the negotiation that's happening that's causing the problem, or the delay in time, it's increasing the time, when it gets to the point where we put in, say, like a splitter not our splitter scaler, but just a regular splitter that has maybe well, at that point, it would take the highest common denominator.
Just putting a splitter in doesn't help in and of itself, because without some level of EDID management.
Right. So then, now the EDID management, that's different though, because now we have something in between that's actually stating you are connected to this type of TV.
Which is why in all the trainings I always said, pick the resolution, pick a bit rate, pick an audio, and set it.
And just set it. Just run with that. Okay. So.
And EDID management does that for you in a lot of cases.
Right.
It takes that out of the situation.
Right.
It says, here's what I want, you give me this, and it sends that forward, here's what I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm. So, oh, here we go. Oh, okay, it's coming. Oh, yeah, Philip, we know, we're looking into it. I didn't answer your phone call because I was actually getting ready for this.
Is this the Apple TV?
No, this is the Matrix. Yeah, we're looking into it. I'll call you back after the show. Let's see, because of cheap Amazon cables, I missed what we were talking about when you said that. Would audio dropping out only PCM, DTS, DTHD, and DTS? Is there more to that question, Taylor?
Are we asking options, or is it not being received?
Would audio dropping out only? If only audio is dropping out.
That is generally a capacitive loading issue.
Right.
That is under EDID repair.
Yes, that's where the junior would come in.
Right, and that's what we're going to discuss here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and jump in and start talking about EDID problems and how to fix them. Right? Do you want a top-down shot?
Sure.
Okay. Got the back of your head in there too.
Repair and management. That's visible?
Somewhere.
Okay, so honestly, whether you go with repair or management kind of depends on the symptoms you're facing.
Okay.
Now, he specifically mentioned audio dropouts.
Got it.
Now, audio dropouts are designed by HDMI to be the idiot light on your dashboard.
Sure.
That is actually part of the HDMI program.
Well, and we talked about this last week, where we showed what happens when it doesn't meet the clock time and all that happens. And the way that you described it was that the clock window is much more narrow for the
Effectively,
for
it's a narrower, so it has to be there within a given period of time.
Right, and if audio starts to drop out,
and if audio drops out, it's telling you that other items are going to fail.
Right.
Because it's already starting to get out of sync.
Yeah, its timing is.
Look, if you ride the bus to work, or catch a carpool, and you're 5 minutes late, they're leaving without you.
Yes.
If you're 3 minutes late, you may catch it.
Right.
But then the next guy they're picking up is going to be a little later because they waited for you.
Right.
And if this happens enough times,
if everyone's 3 minutes late or 2 minutes late,
then you're not going to get to work on time.
Right. Right.
And that's literally what is happening. So that particular question falls under repair.
Taylor, there's more to Taylor's question.
Okay.
He's asking, would audio only dropping out on HD base T for moments regardless of audio format be an EDID issue or HD base T issue? It could be both.
It could be both, or either.
Yeah, it could be both, or it could be either. I would start with your, we had a whole episode on terminations, or on EDID, or on, come on, HD base T.
You can do it.
Extenders. So a couple things really quick that you want to do. Make sure that your category wire in between is at least 20 meters. So we're looking at 60 feet. Make sure
70.
Make sure that you keep pushing that number.
Yes, I do.
60 feet is a good number.
20 meters is 66 and a half feet.
Okay. So the other thing is your terminations. He says video never drops out. Yeah, that could still be
That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Because it depends on there's 8 conductors in there.
Sure.
And depending on your termination, it could affect specific parts of it.
Right. Well, and honestly, can we not have capacitive buildup on that entire system?
The way that runs internally, I don't see that being an issue unless it's a termination problem.
Sure.
Now, how would you check this?
Well, if you disconnect the Ethernet cable and plug it back in, if it starts working.
Well, that could still be a hot plug.
Oh, because we could be killing power on one side. which is then forcing it to do a hot plug and renegotiate.
Right.
What if we if we do the HDMI cable, then it's going to do the same thing.
No, not if you're going into it. Yes, you're still a hot plug, but you're not resetting the HD base T.
Right. So if you do from the source side, unplug the HDMI,
A lot of
and plug it
HD
back
base
in.
T units do not
Right.
force hot plug resets.
Right.
They're just constant.
Yeah.
I would start with the JR3. Is it all sources or is it a specific source?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an AVR or a pre-pro?
Mm-hmm.
If it's all sources going through a pre-pro, I would start with the JR3 on the output of the pre-pro or the input of the HD base T extender transmit side.
Now, you would do a pre-pro in this case only if you were going from the source to the pre-pro or AVR. Because
it's happening to multiple sources.
Because the AVR output doesn't normally have audio on it on the output of the AVR, right?
Well,
you see what I'm saying? So it's
here's the
probably,
question is he going, yes.
Yeah. So Taylor, a couple things. Check your terminations. If you don't use the pass-through style RJ45s, Easy 45, all of those.
Yep.
Make sure that you're at least 20 meters. Don't go through punch downs or keystones or pass-throughs or anything like that.
We have another something.
And then it's all sources when plugged into the AVR.
Okay, so let's back up a second because this is an interesting question. If this is definitely not an HD base T extender issue.
So actually, really quick, Taylor, do me a favor. In the comments, put in there where is the HD base T extender at? Is it between the source and the AVR? And if it's between the source and the AVR, are the other sources also using extenders? Or is it after the AVR?
Or is this a Denon or a Sony where you turn off the AVR and the audio is forwarding onto the TV?
Correct.
When the AVR is off. We definitely need more information on this.
Fill it out in the chat for us. Go ahead and put it in there. We're going to come back to that. We're going to keep talking though about EDID dropout or audio dropout and what happens.
Typically, when you see audio dropout, it's a single source.
Right.
Generally between the source and an AVR.
Yeah.
Because the audio stays at the AVR.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then what you're looking at is an EDID failure between the source and the AVR.
Mm-hmm.
And the JR3, which is historically the very first device we created under its name, the DAD, which was a big black box.
Right.
Is the go-to repair on this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to...
Yeah, you're connected.
Go
switch over to it.
This is the JR3. Now, what the JR3 does is strip capacitive loading on the data bus.
That's right.
Now, he mentioned last week, I'm going to go back over it real quick here.
Let's switch back over to the top.
We talked about rise time. Now, data, zeros and ones. In theory, this should be zero rise time, but that would require a black hole.
Correct. Yeah.
Because the electron still has to move,
yes,
from here to here. So there's a clock that is ticking.
I think my drawing was better.
Inside of every bit, whether the bit's high or low doesn't matter, there's a clock that's ticking.
Yes.
And so a data has to transition. As I mentioned last week, you want that transition really to lead the clock.
Yes. You want to be there before the clock
You want to be there before the clock.
Yeah.
Because that way it's like, oh, yeah, it's high.
Well, you need to be there before the clock.
No, you don't need to be there before the clock. You need to be there at the beginning part of the clock, because as long as part of the clock still reads it,
okay, yeah.
you're still good. But
Yeah.
you don't want to be too far into the clock, because then it's, what? Wait, what?
Right.
So over time, capacitive loading will do this with the rise time. Eventually to the point where the clock does not recognize it as a high. Or
a low.
Going the other direction.
Yeah.
A low.
Yeah. Because it's not just about going from a 0 to a 1 or a 1 to a
Right,
0.
the data has to be read in both spaces.
Correct.
And again, the clock doesn't care which it is. It's just going tick, 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 tick. It just has to be read one or the other.
Yes.
And as we mentioned last week, there's a couple of things involved in this, not just time.
Yep.
But it also has to reach a certain voltage up and a certain voltage down to be recognized by the clock.
0.9 volts and 4.74 volts?
4.7 is a recognized high officially.
Yes.
That's actually designated.
Yes.
That's a number officially.
Yeah. Has to be above.
Has to be above. 4.7 or above.
This one is may.
This one is a problem. As mentioned, the word is may be 0.9 or less may. Now, may is a problem because may is not a defined statement.
Yeah. Let's see. It should be less than or equal to 0.9. There you go.
Ooh.
Use the correct the correct symbology.
Now, the reason this is somewhat problematic is because less than 9 is not a defined statement.
Yes.
It's just a generalization.
Yeah.
Anything below that can be established by a product,
Yeah.
whether it's a source or a display.
Yeah.
The sources are typically more critical than the display.
Yeah.
There are sources out there that require 0.6 volts.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's only 0.9 or 0.7 or 0.8 or 0.85,
It's not a
it's
zero.
not a 0.6.
Yeah, it's not a zero.
It's not recognized as a zero. So yes, that 0.7, that 4.7 is probably achieved. Because that is a defined statement.
It has to be there.
This may or may not be achieved. So there are answers and solutions to this.
Yes.
If this is your problem, and it happens more with specific product brands than others.
Yes.
And by the way, this is not a statement of anything wrong with the product.
No. Yeah.
It's just that it requires a different voltage.
Yeah.
And actually, you have to appreciate the fact that they actually set a standard.
Well, and they're more strict with it.
Yes,
is what,
they
is
are.
what it comes down to. They
They
yeah.
said, I want this.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because as long as you know what your achievement is, your goal, where you have to be, that finish line, you can get there.
Sure.
You just have to know.
You just have to know.
Now, the 0.6 can be problematic because pretty much every active cable out there, whether it's copper or fiber, goes to 0.9.
Yeah.
Because that's acceptable as a may.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some devices require 0.6. If that is the case, there are several ways to get there. One is our JR3, because along with stripping the capacitive loading to resolve this issue, to return your rise time to a correct format, it also deals with this issue by dropping it down to 0.4 volts.
Right. To make sure it actually gets below
So
that.
we
yeah.
are well below the may in any known product. So that fixes that issue quite well.
Yes.
And it is an excellent solution. Passive, does not require any power.
Yep.
You typically plug it in on the output of the source that has the issue, or the input of the next device in line, whichever physically fits better.
Yeah. Normally
Because
you
it's
want it
bi-directional.
Normally you want it at the source side though to in
Just
practice.
from a physical,
Yeah.
where it goes is based on where it fits.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Because it's bi-directional, it does the same thing in both directions.
So, okay. So that is a quick fire answer for if audio is dropping out but video is staying and is dropping out here and there, you probably have capacitance buildup.
Yes. Now, that's not all you will see with that. As this continues to get further down the line and out of sync, and it could happen, it could take months to happen. Or it could happen in minutes if it's really bad.
Yes.
You could get mode out of range.
Yep.
Frequency not supported.
Yep.
HDCP not supported.
A green overlay.
You could get color shifts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could get odd resolutions where the picture does not quite fit the screen.
Yep. Just basically, it doesn't know what to do, is what it comes down to.
Pretty much
the
anything,
instructions it's being given
anything that's not sparkles
Yeah. Yeah.
is probably EDID.
It's basically where you get those. You went to IKEA, you bought the Bjorkenstyrkar or whatever it's called, and you got it home and you were looking at the instructions and you start building, and when you get to the end of it, you didn't build the Bjorkenstyrkar, you built the
Come on.
Jorgenstar. I don't know.
I was looking for something better from you.
But the thing is because you don't have all the parts for the Jorgenstar, it doesn't look like the Jorgenstar that you were given.
More importantly, what you didn't get was the manual for the Jorgenstar.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
It's really you got the wrong manual.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be really surprised if I actually named something from IKEA when I did that. But anyways, moving on. Okay.
They've got thousands of products. I promise you that was one of them.
So Taylor gave us a layout.
Okay.
He's going sources to a matrix.
Okay.
The matrix is an HD-based matrix, which then goes out to the AVR, which then goes to the TV. So, audio dropouts, and it doesn't matter the type of audio, which makes sense because it's all still traveling down the same avenue. If you were watching the
quick
episode,
question: is it affecting any other output on the matrix?
Good question. Yeah, Taylor, let us know. Is it affecting any other outputs on the matrix? He says HD-based T-Links all over 100 feet. Video never drops out. He's using Cat 6A. It's all sources when plugged into the AVR. So let us know if it's on all outputs of the matrix as well. And have you bypassed the AVR? If you can bypass the AVR and go directly to the TV, use the TV audio speakers. And also, I'm assuming it's not happening all the time.
And what AVR is it?
So yeah, that does have an effect on it as well. My thoughts on that: if he's losing audio, he's going over the HD-based T.
It's still going to be an EDID issue.
It's still going to be an EDID issue, and it also kind of depends on what the matrix is doing with the EDID.
The very first question is what I ask is, A, is it affecting other outputs of the matrix?
Yes.
It is.
Well, no, yeah.
If it is not,
correct,
then what we're looking at is an EDID issue between that port and that AVR.
Yes.
The very first thing I would do is I would try another HD-based T output on the matrix.
Yes.
Just to make sure we don't have a port-specific issue.
Just as a test.
Right, just purely for testing purposes.
But again, if it's one of those like random problems that doesn't happen all the time.
It can be frustrating.
Very frustrating to test that. If that's the case, and in this case, you would just trade the outputs, change your programming. You're gonna have to change whatever your automation or control system programming is, but just change the outputs and let it stay that way until it happens again. If it never happens again, then there's just something weird with that output.
And it does happen that's the case.
Also, are you having, what is your source? Did you say? No, you didn't say. Yeah, I would like to know what your source is as well. I know that you're saying that you've got different audio formats, so maybe it's like a Roku
Dolby
or something.
Digital, DTS.
Correct. I'm curious about the source device and what the content is as well, and if it changes from content to content. Lots of really good information about that. The questions, though, that is really we're trying to diagnose what's happening because there's a lot that could be wrong with it.
And the questions basically it's more about eliminating things.
Yes.
With the questions.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk more about EDID failures.
Okay.
Okay. What else can an EDID failure look like?
Well, the problem with EDID failure is pretty much anything that happens to an HDMI signal that's not sparkles.
Sure.
I mean, seriously, it could be a black screen. Mm-hmm. It could be an odd-shaped picture. It could be a compressed picture. Mm-hmm. It could be, a long and skinny picture. It could be parts of a picture. Mm-hmm. Color shift.
I had color shift. I had somebody call in recently where they had color shift. They had green on one portion of the screen, not the entire screen, but that could still be an EDID problem.
That could be an EDID problem.
Yeah.
Although more than likely,
the board's going
that's
bad.
A hardware problem.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So when we look at then repairing it, we're repairing the signal, not the data. We're not changing the data.
Right, we're not changing data. We're just
signal.
allowing the data to move properly at the right voltage, at the right speed.
Right. We're taking
a chokehold off the data so it can be properly understood.
That's right. We're removing whatever's slowing it down or impeding it, essentially.
And that fixes a large chunk of what's out there. Let's be honest, the Junior 3 should be in everybody's toolkit.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's a mandatory item.
And I know normally we don't talk about our own products on our show today,
but nothing else does what it does.
Yeah, this is when we talk about fixing problems, you can either reboot everything every night and maybe start fresh every single day, or put something in there like the Junior, which would actually help fix it.
And the other thing I would have in my toolkit is a splitter with scaling built in, because now we're talking EDID management.
Right. Now, the scaling thing, though, what I find interesting that you've put in here is management with a scaling
Yes.
switch or splitter. So you're talking about specifically our 1x2 splitter scaler,
Or the 1x4, the
Sure.
1x8.
There's other scaling systems out there from other manufacturers, of course.
Yes.
They do exist, but with our 1x2 splitter, it's a splitter and it's a scaler and it's an automatic scaler. That one's
And
really,
also supports voltage and current.
Yes.
So there's a lot going on in there.
Yes. So one of the things that quick little tidbit about this, and again, it's not a product episode. I promise you. It's just it was a cool thing that happened when we were testing it. We had the 1x4. It was back when we had the Sony UHD TV in here. That before we got the 8K.
The died.
Yeah, the died. We had the Sony in here. That was hooked up with HDR. That was playing Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. We had the splitter in between. We then went the splitter over to the TV that we use as our monitor when we're doing our videos. We went over to that one, hooked it up. That's a 4K non-HDR. Then we went over to a 1080p monitor that was over here, and that was when we had that TV that's over there now.
Right.
When it was up in the corner, and that's a 480 display.
720.
Is it a 720?
720.
Are we sure about that?
Positive.
Okay, so 720. So we
had four significantly different resolutions.
We were watching HDR.
Right,
We were
with
watching
Billy Lynn's.
4K HDR, and it was playing perfectly fine, by the way, on the non-HDR 4K display, on the 1080p display, and on the 720p display. And on all of that, there was no delay.
No sync issues.
No sync issues, which was great.
Now, and what I like...
Good question. Before we get into management,
Yes.
the experts are asking, what's the difference between the JR3 and the AIO?
Well, the JR3 is the basis of a lot of products we sell.
Mm-hmm.
The JR3, which is basic capacitive stripping device,
Yeah.
or data accelerator is what they call it officially,
Sure.
is built into the JR3. It's built into the AIO, the AIO2, the GA1, the GA2, the Titan active cables, which are discontinued.
Yeah. It's built into the Velox AOC head shells.
So there's a,
Yeah.
well, that's an electronic emulation of it. It doesn't have the physical chipset.
But it does the same thing.
It does the same thing.
Got it. Okay.
Honestly, between the two,
Okay.
I prefer the physical filtering versus the electronic accelerating.
Got it.
It does a better job.
Taylor's has given us more information.
Okay.
Sources are NVIDIA Shield, Apple
Okay.
TV, Panasonic UB820. That's the new Oppo Blu-ray
Right,
player.
the Oppo replacement.
Yeah. TiVo Edge over-the-air box. How is that, by the way? Does that work out really well, the OTA box? He's got streamers, YouTube TV, Netflix, and Plex, where all the formats come in. But audio drops out of PCM also happens. So, and it doesn't happen on the other HD-based outputs or endpoints.
Okay, so again, the very first thing I would do is just
Swap
outputs from the matrix to make sure we're not fighting a hardware issue.
No patch panels, no keystones, no
Good for
EZs
you.
or pass-throughs. AVR is 4K HDR Pioneer with
Which is an Onkyo Integra.
Dolby Vision. The OTA, it is, okay, great, that's good to know. I was looking into one of those back when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to keep cable or not, so I wanted to know if those were any good. So he's got Dolby Vision, but that shouldn't have an effect
No,
on,
that
on
doesn't,
the
because
audio
that's
portion of
that's
it.
different
HDR.
metadata.
Yeah, that's different metadata for HDR. No patch panels, no keystones, no easy pass-throughs. Yeah, I'm with Brent. It's going to be the connection between the Matrix and the AVR. So the first thing to test is to swap one of the outputs on the Matrix with another one, and change your programming. I know it's going to be kind of frustrating, but change your programming, whatever it is, and then if it happens again, I'm going to say re-terminate.
Okay, well, the next question is what cables are between the HD-based receiver
And the Matrix
and the AVR.
the AVR, and it's an
and
HD-based T
I
Matrix.
assume it's an HD-based T matrix.
Yes, from the way that I read it, also it's
If
an
it
HD-based
is
T matrix.
not,
Yeah.
check the cable there and put a JR3 on the output.
Also, make sure that the HDMI cable that's coming out of the receiver side of the extender of the HD-based T, between the receive side of the HD-based T and the AVR, put a 2 meter thick 2 meter HDMI cable in there. Something like, I know it's not a 2 meter, but I just had it. Here it is. That one. Yeah, this isn't a 2 meter. This is a 1 meter. Yeah, this is a 1 meter. But put like an MHX or a Velox passive in between there. Make sure it's 2 meters long.
The heavier gauge has fewer EDID issues.
Well, the heavier gauge it allows more current to pass through, and which means that if the capacitance buildup is less, or the percentage of it is less, or it's less capable of creating that. I don't know.
It's a more open channel.
Okay, that works. So that would be so switching the outputs first. See if that makes any difference. If it doesn't make any difference, check the HDMI cable. If the HDMI cable doesn't make a difference, re-terminate.
Now, if the HD-based T extenders are separate extenders from the matrix, if you're coming out HDMI from the matrix into an HD-based T transmitter,
same.
JR3 on the output of the matrix.
Yes, and
but
also
first thing
make sure
is
that
try different ports.
Yes.
Always try different ports first.
Yeah. So you can. The experts are asking why not re-terminate and switch the outputs at the same time.
I want to do one at a time.
Well, we're on this side of it, right?
Yeah, but
he makes a good point. It eliminates possible service calls, and that makes a lot of sense. For us, it would be very helpful for us on our end to know exactly what's causing the problem, because then that helps us to troubleshoot further things in the future. But yes, you are right. If you did go ahead and do everything all at once, you're probably going to fix the problem, but we don't know what.
You're not going to know what you fixed.
Right. You don't know what.
So you don't know what to look at in the future.
Right. So it's helpful for troubleshooting purposes to know what you did to fix the problem. But yes, really good point.
Okay. So management versus repair.
Did you answer the AIO thing? You did.
Yes.
What's the difference
we're starting.
Okay.
We got down, and then you.
Yeah. Sorry.
The AIO, like other items, is built on the JR3, but it adds a lot of feature sets to it.
Yes.
One, along with the capacitive stripping.
I got it.
No, we're going to whack heads, and that ain't going to be.
No.
No. Change that thought process. Capacitor stripping built in, the 0.4 volt equalization built in, but the AIO, what it will do for you is supplement voltage and current on the 5 volt, the hot plug, the TMDS feeds, and make sure that the EDID feeds are correct.
Yes.
So there's a lot going on there, and then last but not least, my favorite function of the AIO2 is the hot plug interrupt, the little green Phoenix plug on the side. Here we go. Go ahead and give me. The little green Phoenix plug on the side allows you to tie into a control system relay and actually force a hot plug interrupt for any source or any port.
Right.
It is a tremendous problem solver. Now, this is, I'm going to say price X, which is very reasonably priced for dealers. The AIO is effectively twice that because there's a whole lot more going on.
Yeah, we're doing the supplementation, we're doing the timers, we're doing the
hot plug interrupt.
We're doing
there's
a lot
going on there. I would have a JR3, I would have an AIO2, and I would have at least a 1x2 scaling splitter on my truck.
Yeah.
Because between EDID repair and EDID management, everything you need is there.
Yeah. So when you started talking about the 1x2 splitter.
Yes.
And the 1x2 splitter is a scaler. And so your management...
But it's more than just scaling, because there's EDID required in that as well.
Correct. Well, and it has a couple options. Do you have it on there? I'll put it up on the screen. So the 1x2 splitter scaler that we have, it has the... oh, you've got the matrix on there.
Hold on a second.
So it has a couple switches on the front of it, and the switches on the front of it do auto, copy, and mixed. So the auto is where it just has its own canned EDID information. The mixed is where it works like just a traditional splitter, where it takes the highest common denominator and then outputs that one. And then the copy, that's where you're coming in as far as the management's concerned. That one's kind of interesting. So I'm going to switch over. Leo, my sentiments exactly. I will say though that it does keep us in business. It does, pay our paychecks for that. So I'll do that.
I got paid because I'm purdy. No.
Did you want to stay with that?
No.
I mean, you want to restate that a little bit? I mean, is that?
No, we both know better than that.
All right. So that's the CS 1x4 HDM SPL5. And you can see there it's got the auto mixed and copy options on the front of it. So when you look at the auto mixed and copy functions on the front of it, the things that it does, like I said, the auto where it has just a canned 4K, EDID information. Then it has the copy, where it's actually copying the EDID of the output of the TV that's plugged into output. I think on that one it's output number 4.
It's output number 4.
And so on output number 4, it's copying the EDID from that display.
Now that's important because that's not being shared with the other outputs. It's being shared only with the input.
Correct. It's being shared with the source device.
Right. So the source device is going to, you put the best possible TV on 4 or display, whatever it is.
Yep.
Projector, flat panel.
Yep.
And so that is giving you the best possible picture you can get in that system.
Yes.
From the source.
Yes.
Then the other outputs will auto-negotiate what they need to do to work correctly for whatever displays on 1, 2, and 3.
So, and then what happens from there is that the splitter is asking 1, 2, and 3, what
they want, right?
What do you want? And then from there, it's taking the information from the source, or the picture from the source, and it's scaling it for those other outputs.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Now, it's also stripping HDR for those sources that don't want it. It's
metadata.
Also, it does not re-time. It doesn't change the
client. Oh, it's a reclocking device.
No, not that. I'm saying it doesn't change the timing of
refresh
the frames,
rate.
the refresh rate. So if you are sending it 30 frames per second, it's not going to spit out 24 frames per second for the other sources.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't do any of that. Let's see. Why don't any of the 1X any have audio de-embedding? Oh, the splitter, the splitters. We just haven't put it in there yet. There's not enough of a demand for it. Do you want that? If you want it, let us know.
Yeah, if enough of you say, do this.
Yeah, money. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is this. If anytime we get a ton of great ideas from you guys, do not think we're discounting that.
No, please, yes.
But every idea we get has to be looked at from, okay, feasibly, how long will it take to do it? Is the technology available?
Sure.
And how many are we going to sell? Because the orders for anything new are not small.
No, they're not. But yeah, it's honestly, to go back to that, you got to bring in competitors. You got to make it to where we need to do. Jeez. All right, so Leo says that Xantech does have one that's a splitter, scaler, and audio breakout.
Well,
that's cool. But again, we need to hear from you. It helps us to hear from you. What type of devices you need.
We have to justify it to bring it in.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Okay, so management.
Now, management is not just on the splitter side. Management can also be determined by you. We're back to the Matrix.
Right.
Now, in your favorite toys, because you were in charge of developing the Matrix program.
Well, partly, anyways, but yes.
Setting up, you can do a tremendous amount of EDID management through the IP controls of the IP controls of the Matrix.
Correct. I'm trying to see if this one's connected to the network so I can show it. 135.117. So, yes. If you have, go ahead, keep going.
Oh, so management can resolve a lot of issues up front, but specifically the audio dropouts, the color shifts, the odd picture sizes, basically what you're dealing with is timing issues on the EDID stream, the clock issues. The JR3 is your most likely solution. Now, it is also possible to have issues where you want to get rid of EDID. Now, in what applications would you want to get rid of EDID, Adam?
So one of the only places that you would want to get rid of EDID is when you have a piece of surveillance equipment, because it used to be that if you had a computer, but now it's not that because computers require HDCP because HDCP travels down the EDID channel or DDC line. You do not want to block that because you're going to block HDCP, which then of course gives you
no picture,
or other major problems.
If you're running a video surveillance NVR DVR into more than one display, they are very basic video boards. They do not appreciate seeing multiple EDID streams.
Right.
Even with the scaling splitter.
Right.
It still kind of freaks it out.
Yeah.
So at that point, we do have, if you'll switch me to the Mac.
Will.
To the Mini.
There you go.
We have an EDID blocker. Do not, under any circumstances, let me repeat this, do not, under any circumstances, attempt to use this product on any standard consumer electronic device. Cable boxes, satellite receivers, gaming consoles, sources, laptops, Apples. You're going to kill the signal completely. But if you have an NVR, DVR video surveillance device that you need to send to multiple TVs, this is the solution, as you just plug it right in the back of that box and only that box.
Yes. Yeah, you really don't want to mess around with that too very much, or else you can run into a little bit of a problem. So, okay. Now, one of the other things that you can do with the Matrix that we were talking about is the EDID management. I'm gonna take over the screen and share, if I can hit the buttons correctly. My gosh. Here we go. Take over that one. Switches back over to here. Okay, so inside of our matrices, we actually have the ability to manage the EDID that's being sent back to these sources. I want to make that
not forward to the TV.
Correct.
Because the TV's not that picky.
It doesn't care. It honestly
just
really
send
doesn't
me a
care.
picture.
In fact, the way that we were describing the EDID negotiation at the beginning would be better if the sources really didn't. If the source was just outputting something, and in fact, the surveillance equipment.
That's how it does it.
Just outputs. It just says, here's video. It just sends it out, right? It doesn't care about the rest of it. So in this case, what we have is we have EDID management built into it. So we can say input 1, we want to select what the EDID is that's being sent back to it. So we have all these canned EDIDs that are there, but we also have the user EDIDs that can be used instead. Now, the difference is that this isn't a scaling HDMI matrix. We do have scaling in our HDBaseT matrix, but it's only scaling on the HDBaseT output. But what this does allow you to do is it does allow you to control the EDID that's being sent back to the sources to tell the sources, hey, you're connected to a 1080p display, right? Make it super easy to where it's just going to work in case you have a mix of different displays. You can also then use that to your advantage when you're designing your control systems to say, hey, you have access to only these sources. You're a 1080p display, you only have access to these sources. But the 4K display over here, you have access to everything because I know that you can display all of this.
Now, you can also use our 1x2 scaling splitters on the output of a matrix if you need that one lone 1080p set and you have a lot of 4K displays.
Right. So when you when you look at EDID management, this is like the fine EDID management control to where you can go in and actually set what you want it to be. I'm working on a project. I can't say that.
Now, also built in.
There's so much that I want to. There's so much that I want to tell. I know.
Also built into our matrices is the hot plug control.
Yes.
Which is the same as on the AIO1 and the AIO and the AIO2.
Yep.
So with either serial or IP, not IR, you can trigger a hot plug reset on a source if there's a problem.
That's right.
Now it's on the source, not on the output.
Yep. So we actually have that here on the screen. This is the HDMI output, and then our input port status as well. So we can actually turn off our input ports and our output ports. Yeah, it does. The Roku has been a nightmare device with it forcing auto resolution. Anyone else having that issue, and most of the time it's dumbing down to 1080. They have forced it in the menu to something higher. Yes, I have seen that before. DirecTV was also one that would do that, to where it's like, I don't want anything except for 720, but it would still.
Well, you can't eliminate 480 on a DirecTV.
Right. Yeah, and that would make it. Well, you can turn it off, but
no,
it's still.
No, you can't.
Well,
you can't uncheck 480.
On the Genies, you can.
On the Genies, you can.
Yes, the Genies you can. You can actually disable 480, but it still reverts to it if it doesn't think that it can display anything else.
Oh.
So regardless of what you select, it's still going to do whatever it thinks is best.
I'm in charge.
It's a pain in the butt. So yeah, if you're able to just set the resolution, great, fantastic. Do that because it's going to make life so much easier. Leo, your problem with the Rokus, you're not alone. It is a problem. If you have something in play that will do stuff like this, where it will handle, it'll say, hey, Roku, you're connected to this type of display.
Do it as a management instead of a setting.
Correct. You might look at putting the 1x2 splitter scaler in there, the CS 1x2 HDMSPL5. Then put it on auto. That's a 4K 60 display is essentially what it says. And then from there, it will handle the rest of it. It'll just handle making sure that all the video.
And I want to throw something in there because you mentioned the Roku. We're starting to get a fair amount of calls on Apple TVs with audio breakouts, both as standalone devices and with matrices in the past 2 weeks.
Yes.
I believe this is a firmware issue, but we need more data. So if you guys are running into this, please let us know.
Yeah, do let us know, because they're like Brent's saying, we are seeing. I mean, we're getting calls on this at least once a day. Right now.
And we weren't.
Yeah, correct. And
jobs that were working suddenly are not.
The problem that we're seeing is that essentially the Apple TV, when it's connected to anything, or is it just AVRs?
ABOs. Audio breakout devices. Yep. What we're finding on that is it will break out the analog, but it won't pass forward the digital.
Even on one that has forward passing audio.
Even one that has forward passing audio.
So something weird's happening there.
And on matrices, it's not passing audio.
That's an EDID problem, because it's a firmware problem.
It's a firmware problem. And AVRs, I'm a fan of Roku over the Apple TVs because we just have, as a rule, fewer problems. As a rule. Yeah. You know, as soon as you say that, something pops up to make me a liar, but...
Yeah, you're right. The experts are saying when the Roku updates, it resets back to auto. Because when you go into the settings and you set it to a fixed output, the next time the power is lost, it will then revert back to auto. So what does that tell you to do? Turn off auto update on everything? Well, in some cases you can't. Like the Roku. You can't turn it off? You can't turn off the auto updates. You also, it's very difficult to go in and set an IP address for it. You have to use the HDCP. Sorry, DHCP. DHCP. There we go. And then he's asking, are we going to have a big dog show soon? We did 2 weeks ago. We talked about the MOV.
A big dog show on Wednesday, or is he asking if you're coming to him?
I mean, sure. Why not?
There's going to be a lot of road tours this upcoming year. Yeah. Except for some of us between October and January. Some of us aren't traveling from the end of October to the end of January. I don't think we're ready yet to put that out there. Okay. Yeah. Not yet. Not yet. I got to okay that first. You're asleep. Yeah, we are asleep. Okay. So when it comes down to EDID and all the problems that it gives us, depending on the type of problem that it gives us, will depend on how to fix that problem. Now, there are 3 inexpensive items to carry in your truck. Yeah. Have them. The first thing when we get a call, damn near the first thing we ask is, okay, do you have a Junior 3 in your truck? Well, no. You make it hard. Help us. Have a Junior 3, an AIO2, and a 1x2 splitter skiller, an SPL5. Yes. Yeah. Those 3 items are not expensive. Nope. And they will pull your fat out of the fire in the vast majority of jobs, and you go home and you don't have another problem to go back to. Yeah. It's one of those things that, you know, if you have 2 or 3 of them on the truck, that way the next time you use one, you have one for the next time, which could be the very next day or the next afternoon. Job. That way you don't have to worry about reordering, you know, so quickly or going back to the shop to pick up more supplies. Then, of course, then you can reorder it and have it on the truck at that point. But these are things to have with you during those times where you may not be speccing it for the job, but when there's a problem, you're going to be really glad that you had it there with it. Honestly, you should spec a Junior 3. Into the job. Yeah. At the very minimum on the output of every AVR. Yes. At the very minimum. I would agree with that. Yeah, definitely do stuff like that. It'll make your life so much easier for that. So, Brent, we're up to 3 minutes 54 seconds, or 3 minutes, 3 hours, 1 hour. We're up to 54 minutes. Here we go. Are you doing math again? That's the danger. Don't give me numbers or anything to deal with when we're doing live episodes, unless it's pre-done. Has to be pre-finished before we get on here. And then did that work? Nah, barely. Okay. Yeah, we're up to 54 minutes right now, or 55 minutes. Are there any other good comments? Mostly what we've talked about so far. The Roku problem is going to be a pain. Leo, I feel your sentiment on the standings for EDID. Now, here's, for what it's worth, because he mentioned this earlier, as we move into 2.1, it's only going to get worse. In theory, the link training is supposed to help at least the resolution issues. Yes, yes. But 2.1 now has a much greater list of questions and answers that are required, and they're actually moving out of the DDC lanes to do some of this. Right. So this data is not completely in the DDC lanes like it used to be. So the world is entertaining? Yeah. You do have to do MAC reservation on the router for the Roku. That is correct. So
That's your fix for getting DHCP handled on the Roku, or a fixed IP address on the Roku. I don't know why they dropped that, because they used to have it. They used to have that ability to actually do that. Granted, they used to have digital audio output on the Roku.
Which solved a lot of problems.
Which solved so many problems. So, but anyways.
Money? I mean, I get it
sure.
on the digital audio. I get that's cost. But
Yeah.
taking the fixed IP address out?
Other than people were going in there and breaking stuff, maybe, that, you had the consumers that were going in and started messing around with it where they really shouldn't. But you can put it in a secret menu somewhere, or put it, a couple steps into something else so that you could actually change it. I mean, Apple TV still has it, and that's still, that's from Apple, the most locked down of ecosystems. So you would think that it would be doable. So I would start yelling at Roku. I would start
good luck.
hitting up their tech support and being like, why can't I fix this? Why can't I have a fixed IP address?
A couple of things.
Yep.
End of the month, I will be up in New York at the TV Shootout.
Yes.
In the city.
Yep, that's right.
Saturday, Sunday for the King of TV Shootout.
That's right.
CD is coming up the end of September. Mm-hmm. Don't forget to go. It's in Dallas this year.
Yep.
He and I will be hitting the road here quite a bit in the near future.
Very near
We'll
future,
get
apparently.
you guys a schedule out for the 2022-2023 roadshow tour.
Yep. So I'll actually be in Chicago with the AWA distributors, rep firm.
Okay.
AWA. I'll be up there in Chicago.
When?
The middle of August.
Good for you.
Yeah. So that'll be a good time. I'm gonna go get some pizza. Get some
You
Chicago
can eat well in
deep
Chicago.
dish. Yeah, get some deep dish. Might even get its. It does do SDDP. The Roku now does SDDP. Well,
Really?
it's done it for a while now, but
Now it's recognized and properly functioning.
well, no, it's just that it does do it, but that kind of solves the DHCP problem. But it kind of does. I would rather be a fixed IP address and do SDDP, because it just
Hand in hand complement.
just lock it down.
Oh! That was the other one. There was an interesting question on Integration Pros today.
Oh yeah, do you
Guy
still
was
have
going.
it?
Yeah, let's go there. Guy was on a job site and there was VLANs, and he was asking about. They don't do them. Do other dealers do them?
And when do they?
When
do them?
do they do them? Yes.
Yeah.
Now
We did an entire episode
we did a
on VLANs.
great episode on this, and we are big fans of VLANs.
Yeah.
Because it can segregate traffic. It can make your life.
Now, Brent, tell me, do I have a VLAN on my network?
No.
No.
Ask me about mine.
Yeah, no.
No.
You got to share your screen again.
Oh no. This was just.
You're just gonna ask it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this was on Remote Central, where they were talking about basically what's the norm? What should be the normal thing to do with VLANs, and should you have VLANs? All of their networks that they do are just flat. They just have everything on one network, and so they're asking, should they do more VLANs? And I think this is, let's see, what did they say?
For residential installs, main, security, and guests should be VLAN.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I would have one more. I would do one for IoT.
Okay.
So there's many devices. See, here's the thing. Alexa.
Yeah.
Alexa does not have any direct access from the Echo to Control 4 or to other automation systems.
No, but you do
It has
have
to go up to the cloud.
True.
So
But if you put it on a VLAN, can you still control it
Yes.
out of your iPad because it's through the cloud?
because it's through the cloud.
Okay.
All of the
Okay.
Alexa is through the cloud. There's that new Thread. No, Matter. There's that new Matter that is coming out that's supposed to give the ability to do device-to-device control for Google and Alexa and Siri and all that kind of stuff. So there's a headphone jack on the remote. Why is it so hard to put a device? Yeah, I know. No, I know. But again, that comes down to the headphone jack on the remote is a selling feature to the average consumer, whereas the Toslink connection is a selling feature to
us,
which is guys, we are such a small portion of their business that
not just theirs.
Yeah, we're such a small portion of their business. It is annoying. It's very annoying. But yes, that's the reason for it. They can save money on the other one because it's a Toslink. You have to have the LED. You have to have the driver for the LED. You have to have all the processing and
Board,
everything for it.
There's a lot going on in there.
Whereas instead, if you put it into a 3.5 jack on the remote, yes, it takes
And
up
it's
more
not
plastic.
even on most of the remotes anymore.
Nah, it's on a few. It's on the higher end ones, which you're already spending more money on anyways. But I'm with you. I really am. But that's what's happening. It's demand. So, okay.
So, are we ready to call it a day?
I think we're ready to call it a day.
Okay, what is next week's?
Next week's, we're going to be talking about bulk wire safety standards.
You and I had a long discussion on this recently.
So this is, come back next week, we're going to talk about the difference between plenum, riser rated, CL1, CL2, CL3, and on down the line. And all the different things that are going on with that. We're going to try and break it down as best as we can.
Which is not easy because even online the documentation is kind of iffy.
It's iffy, and we might not be getting into the details of that portion of it. The other iffy thing about this is that you and I don't normally handle the bulk wire portion
certainly not the purchasing
of the company. So we'll have to figure out, we'll have to go to them and learn as much as we can before we do our episode. Yes, it should. So Taylor's saying if using anything like Dante AES 67 in the home, that should be VLANed.
Yeah. Dante.
Yeah. Well, also if you're using anything like video over IP. Now, normally video over IP usually has its own dedicated switch and network that is on its own, which is silly because you're basically just matrixing the system anyways.
So it's a hardwired VLAN basically.
Well, you're air gapping so you're not really using the data on it. It was supposed to make it to where you wouldn't have to have separate devices. You could just have the network, which is already there, and you just use the network. And then it turned into something. Yeah, I'm rambling. I'm rambling at that point. So, but yes, if you have other pieces like that are on the network, yes, they should be VLANed. It makes life so much easier because the traffic only goes where the
certainly
traffic is
video surveillance should be VLANed.
Right. So essentially, we talked about this on that episode. Essentially, when you VLAN something, you put a tag on the front of it that says 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and then once it gets to a certain point, as it's sending that data out onto the network, if a device, if you're a 1 and I'm a 2 and I'm sending data to another 2 somewhere,
I ignore you.
As soon as I say 2, you ignore what I'm saying next. That way, your processing power doesn't go into reading if that's actually
something
for you
I couldn't do anything anyway. Right.
It just speeds
By the way,
things
that was a great episode. It's one of the more intense episodes we've had because there was a lot going on there. But look it up. It's a great episode.
Leo, let's not start the debate about lamp wire. We're not going to get into that. Leo's saying we just use lamp wire. Where are you going?
I was trying to read it.
It's down. Yeah. We just use lamp wire. When we went to the bulk
little
wire.
18 gauge brown.
AV over IP and SDVoE should be on its own separate physical network. Yes, it should. In fact, in most cases, that's the only way it's going to work. But again,
that wasn't the theory going into it.
Initially, it should have been something where you didn't have to have, but...
oh, come on. Initially, HD-based was supposed to be over network.
Yeah.
That's what they told us.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyways.
And carry 100 watts to run a TV.
Yeah, sure. Okay. 24 gauge speaker wire. Hey, look, if you're doing 70 volt or 100 volt, sure.
Acceptable.
Yeah, that's acceptable. Run it down the category wire. Technically, it'll work.
At 70 volt, yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Let's go and wrap it up today. We're already past our hour mark. Come back next week where we're going to talk about the different safety standards and different types of wire and different types of...
Are we going to talk about different installations involving those safety standards?
I guess. That at some point,
that seems to me where it should go with that because, as you mentioned, 70 volt.
Yeah.
So commercial jobs, plenum, non-plenum, riser rated, not riser rated. Residential, which one is the correct one? So there's a lot to learn there.
Yeah.
So see you next week.
Yep.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Reboot early.
Reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
Call tech support.
And make sure your HD-based T is at least
20 meters
long. There it is. All right, everybody.
Have a great week.
We'll see y'all next time.